sometimes my jokes can be considered offensive or a little too edgy for some people, and I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea of who I am up here. It's me, Latino comedian and registered sex offender Martin Urbano.
Hey, Martin, we're glad you're single now. Come and me. Hey, me.
Hello, hello. We are some trash people, and we're talking about CGP Chris Gethard Presents. This is our mini cast about the next episode of Chris Gethard Presents with Martin Urbano, which airs on July 17th, 2019, episode 4, Comedy School. Are you hella excited?
Not only am I excited, I'm also Forrest, the keeper of the Canon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's the other person I have with me. I'm Emily Pineapple, by the way, if you didn't know. No, we just got another girl on the podcast that sounds exactly like me. So yeah, I'm hella excited for this episode, and I'm excited in an entirely different way than I was hella excited for Christy. After exploring both of these comedians, I think I'm really, really into both of their styles, but they have really distinct voices. Whereas Christy was bubble pop, he's so if she's bubblegum, what kind of candy is Martin Urbano? Dark chocolate?
It has to be candy.
It has to be candy.
Black licorice?
Ooh, I like black licorice.
I do too, but some people really don't like black licorice. And I love his comedy. No, he's not. He's not that divisive. He's better than black licorice. Well, I like black licorice, just to be clear. That was not a
But he's more
criticism.
Universal, I think, than
dark,
black licorice.
The darkest, dark chocolate then? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, maybe 60% dark chocolate.
Sure, yeah. I mean, the fact that I can conjure that is just the most San Francisco thing to have happened. Yeah, exactly
60%. Well, he's amazing, and we're really, really excited to talk about him and talk about his whole history today. So here's his bio. Where did we get his bio from?
His website?
Cool. This is his bio from his website. Martin Urbano is a New York City-based comedian satirist who has appeared on Jimmy Kimmel Live, The CW, on Howie Mandel's Comedy Gala, and Comedy Central. He's currently writing on an upcoming Viceland show and is writing a pilot for TBS. That's awesome. He performed at Just for Laughs, Bonnaroo, the New York Comedy Festival, Boston Calling, and has opened for Chris Kattan. Who's apparently an SNL cast member that I've never heard of.
Yes, he was an SNL cast member in the 90s and also co-starred in the movie A Night at the Roxbury with TCGS executive producer Will Ferrell.
Ooh. And the super fun thing about him is that Martin Urbano appeared on a podcast. What was it? Indie 617?
Well, that was the radio show or the podcast or radio show that he was on at Boston Calling. The one that really explained everything about sort of how he got into comedy and his thought process was Comedy Wham with Valerie Lopez.
Yeah, so we have, for the first time, approached anything close to Random Gene levels of knowing this person's backstory because he told it to us.
Yeah, we got there from him telling us. It's a little different, but...
Yeah, so we're really excited because we have his whole history, and yeah. So let's just get right into it. He grew up in Brownsville, Texas, a place that I don't know where that is, and says that he got into comedy. This is all via the IndieWire.
Indie 617.
Indie 617. I don't know why I keep saying IndieWire. Probably because that's a thing.
Yeah, it's a website.
Well, he talks about how he got into comedy because he had a tumor in his head when he was 13 years old, and he just listened to comedy constantly, and he knew he wanted to do comedy from that age. So he's absurdly young. He's only 25, isn't he?
I mean, that was our back of the envelope guesstimation because he was on a podcast where he said he was 21. And so, yeah around 25.
So everyone should feel bad about themselves and where they are in life unless they are under 25, in which case you better get your shit together because this guy is only 25 and he's writing a pilot for TBS.
Very funny.
It's okay. I feel bad about my life too.
Oh, I feel awful. I so many regrets.
He performed at bars as a high schooler because there were not open mics near him, which is pretty fun.
And he said something about how he doesn't think audiences are as tough as a lot of people do because they're not going to throw beer bottles at me. So they're an easy sell.
So the first thing he got into on the Comedy Wham with Valerie Lopez was that he went to SFA for a semester, which is in Nacogdoches, Texas. Nacogdoches. That sounds like that's awesome, man. Like, that's Nacogdoches, brah.
He described it on that podcast as a town no one has heard of from outside of Texas.
Which is true.
He says like about as south as you can get anywhere in the country.
Huh. Where bad things are happening right now. So he went there to follow his girlfriend rather than taking a UT Austin scholarship. So don't feel too bad about your lives. We all make mistakes, including Martin Urbano. But he says it might not have been a mistake, but you know.
I mean, if you're writing a pilot for TBS,
yeah, that's true.
You know what? Any mistakes were fine.
He did pretty okay. Yeah. And his first set he did when he was 17 years old, which is crazy. After he was still with his girlfriend when he moved to Austin. This was a funny story, how he lied to his parents that he was still in school and that he decided to drop out, but what he actually did was just not attend any classes, which is exactly what I would have done.
I mean, it's definitely like the way to do that. Most people, I think, would do it when they are college aged.
Yeah, but he talks about how that was sort of like his way of burning that bridge. Like, if he gets all fails, he can't go back to college. And that reminded me a lot of Chris Gethard's story about when he was trying to make it in New York as a comedian and he was teaching at UCB and all these things. And his therapist was like, my dude, you need to go all in. Like, you're gonna die if you don't go all in, or I don't know, you're gonna self-implode. And he did. He just like gave himself a certain amount of savings and quit all of his stuff and was like, I'm just going to do comedy. And then he hit rock bottom. And then the next day he like soared to the top. It was a great story. Listen to Chris Gethard tell it. But yeah, that's what it reminded me of. And I think that's a really cool thing that we get to see in these people, sort of like going all in, diving head first, and then succeeding. I love seeing shit like that. I'm way too afraid to do that. And I don't even have a thing I would dive into.
I'm sorry, that was just a really funny admission.
If you didn't know. So yeah, his parents helped him move to Austin when he was 19 after they, trusted him again. So thanks, folks. We all have parents help us out. I'm just looking for things to make me feel better right now in his story.
I mean, that's what stories are for, isn't it, really? To
I thought
reassure us that we're okay.
I thought it was just to decide who's king.
I mean, also that. It can be two things.
It can be two things.
And then some of his comedy influences that he mentioned on that show are Seth Rogen and Steve Carell, because I think that, like, being anywhere between my age and his age, they're going to be some of your comedic influences because the frat pack were so dominant in that era. Mm-hmm. And then also he named Bo Burnham as his first favorite comedian that he still loves. Oof. Which, Bo Burnham's amazing. I mean, after seeing one of his recent specials where he asks, "Are you happy at the end?" That sticks with you for a little bit. That's some powerful content right there.
Oh yeah, you were really sad after that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
in a good way.
No, in a like, oh, that's a good question. That's a good question, Mr. Burnham.
Comedy made me think.
Speaking of young people who are succeeding and make you doubt all your life decisions because you haven't had their success yet. He also named Steve Martin, who, of course, you have to love Steve Martin. And then named Stephen Lynch as someone who used to be one of his faves, but isn't necessarily
I don't know
anymore.
Who that is.
He's a musical comedy guy. He had a song called Awesome Man, a song about Dungeons and Dragons. He was like really hot for a while.
Okay.
And then he thought he wanted to be an actor before going into comedy, which is, I think, very interesting because he has such a character on stage.
Same with Christy.
Yeah, you're right.
She did acting through high school, which obviously must have been when Martin did, because he's only 19 when he started doing comedy.
I think this was college.
Oh.
Because he
also did in high school.
Also high school, probably, but it was also in college. And he doesn't like current event-driven comedy because it's so timely, and so it sort of expires very quickly, which I totally sympathize with and get.
Yeah.
He also started out doing a lot more puns and wordplay.
I love puns
which
and
wordplay.
I
love. I'm a big fan.
Oh my God.
And he's done meta stuff since he started, which I think is really cool and is definitely one of the hallmarks of his comedy that I like the most. And then he tries to emulate his favorite stuff, which is evergreen. I mean, if you look at the people he listed, it's Seth Rogen, Steve Carell, Steve Martin, and Bo Burnham. Like, none of them are too topical that they'll age out of being funny. And so I think that's really interesting. And I think it's definitely
they're also good at being subversive.
Yes.
In a way that has, in a lot of ways, in a lot of different characters, has timed really well. Like, a lot of stuff holds up with Seth Rogen, I think.
I agree. I mean, Steve Martin even was like subverting the entire idea of what stand-up comedy was when he started. So
right.
It's sort of one of those things that you don't necessarily see now because he's been so influential that everyone has aped him since. But
yeah. So yeah, I mean, he's a dark comic. Like, he starts one of his sets by being like, sometimes my comedy can make people think that I'm a bad person, or like, you know, think things about me that are really terrible. Like, he calls himself a sex offender. But he doesn't think he's as dark or dirty as weird as people describe him. He doesn't swear. He doesn't get too graphic. I totally agree with him. He's turning these topics into puns. And that's so much fun. That's what I really love about his comedy, is he's using these macabre images and then turning them on their head in a completely unexpected way. He just wants the, like, ha, which he described. Like, he wants the laugh out loud laugh. And I feel like every time I watch him, like with Christy, I feel like there's a lot of laugh out louds and then a lot of like giggles to myself. I'm like, yeah, like I love oh my God. But with him, it's like a lot of like, ha, 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 like, oh my God.
No, I agree. I mean, I definitely think he's deceptively light as a comedian because he says a lot of words that are tied to dark things. So there's the implication of darkness in his comedy. Mm-hmm. But if you look at it, he's not.
No.
The jokes themselves are fairly light.
Yeah. And he talks about how he tried to emulate Jeselnik. Anthony
Jeselnik, who had the Jeselnik Offensive on Comedy Central, and I think has a special coming up soon.
Yeah, but if anyone knows his comedy, like he's a mean guy. Like, his character is, I'm mean. I'm like a mean person, and he totally makes it work. But yeah, he sort of backed off of that because he didn't feel like he could embody it, and I think that he was able to use a lot of the Jeselnik-y sort of things and turn them into his own voice, you know, like, which is super unique.
I agree. And then he also talked about how, this was on the second Comedy Wham podcast.
Yeah,
the present. The first one was all the past.
Yeah.
They divided into 2 parts.
It's really cool. Y'all should listen to it. It's on YouTube.
Yeah, I want to listen to more episodes as well.
Yeah.
But Stand Up Empire was a PBS show that was stand-up comedy in Austin, and it got turned into a show, as I mentioned. And he was actually on the first episode, and he was super excited because it's apparently like got a lot of legendary Austin comics on it.
Oh, cool.
I still haven't seen it because it's not on the PBS website anymore. But if you can find it, definitely check it out because it sounds really cool.
And let us know. Because we want to see it.
Yes. And back in 2016, when he was on Comedy Wham, he ran 2 comedy shows. He ran Little Miss Comedy Pageant, which
is fucking hilarious.
Is amazing. It's a mock pageant about comedy. The first round is the comedians introducing themselves. The second round is stand-up. And then the third round, they answer audience questions a la Miss South Carolina. So I'm very excited.
Isn't that hilarious?
I think it's such a great format.
For a show. Oh my God, that's so creative.
It's definitely a wonderful format. And then there's the Damn Dirty Filthy Show, which was co-hosted then with Abby Rosenquist and was held at Nasty's Bar, which is just perfect. Perfect. And it was a dirty comedy show where comedians were encouraged to bring their filthiest stuff. And it was inspired by Martin hosting a show at Cap City Comedy Club because as a host, you're supposed to be clean and light. And a lot of his stuff was too dark to pass muster there or to be acceptable there. And then he listed Norm Wilkerson and Mac Blake as comedians who do really well at Damn Dirty Filthy Show.
Have you seen them anywhere?
No.
Okay.
But I remember he said that I think Norm was like, oh, shoot.
Well, we'll look
Cut
them
after
up,
no.
probably. We'll probably look them up if we have time. But if anyone has seen them and feels like messaging us or just mentioning it in the chat during CGP, I'm sure they'd love a shout out. So yeah, the show continues. So if you want to see it, it's with Crystal Casino. That's XRYSTAL. Hopefully we're pronouncing that correctly. And Ashley Overton at the Latchkey Bar, if you want to see that.
And we'll include a link to the current version in the show notes. And then at the time, he was also talking about creating a third show with Cristales. I apologize again if I'm mispronouncing your name, who actually performed at Clusterfest this year. And that was going to be called the Riff Sessions, where comedians would go on with nothing prepared and just riff. And this is where we did do a little bit of random Gene. We dug into Facebook, and it looks like they did actually create it, which I think is super cool.
And he created it because he wanted to become better at riffing.
Yes.
He talks about how he's a very written out comedian. Like, everything he does is written out, and that's really pronounced. And we're going to talk about later a sketch where he has people read his jokes.
Oh, yeah, that was so funny. And he just
does the body language of it. Like, it was so cool. It's really cool. Definitely look up that video if you're going to look up anything, just because that was a really fun thing that I haven't seen before. It's very theatrical, but also very comedy.
Yeah, it gets to his sort of meta quality that he has and just is very clever.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a cool thing that he did to try and, like, build his riffing muscles. We'll see how that goes with the calls.
Yes.
Yeah. I suppose that will come in handy.
And then his frequent collaborator is Kelsey Kane, who is Martin's partner in both comedy and in romance.
She's on the CGP companion pod with Chris Gethard.
Yes, and that's where they said that they're partners in both comedy and romance.
She's so funny.
She's very funny. She actually co-hosts Little Miss Comedy Pageant with him now in New York City, and in January 2019, they held a taping at Littlefield. And they just started doing a bi-weekly show called Latino and the Tramp at Ferns.
Yeah.
Which I think sounds amazing. Like, looking at some of the lineups they have, it's just super cool. We'll have a link to the next one in the show notes.
Yeah. And while Forrest takes a sip of water, I will describe Bounce House promo. We're going to go into his previous work. Sorry, I saw you getting concerned about how, like, messing up the line readings.
No, I appreciate it.
I want you to feel comfortable. I want you to feel good. I'm sure our listeners will forgive us. Hopefully. Please forgive us.
Please.
So yeah, previous work. Bounce House promo is really fun. It's a promotion video from 2015 where he's hosting the first Bounce House, which is a comedy show hosted by Danny Palumbo and Aaron Brooks in Austin, Texas at the Spider House Ballroom. It was produced by Voltec Video, which I assume is something that's happening in Austin. It's really fun. Martin pretends to be a card shark and earns the right to headline the show. Very fun, scripted. It's shot super well.
Yeah, it looks super professional. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it looks like a short.
It doesn't look like just a promo. It looks like a little short film, which is great. And then the next video is Cheryl with Martin Urbano, which is what we were talking about earlier.
This was 2016.
Yes, this was 2016. And in the video, a woman who is presumably the titular Cheryl reads his comedy out while he does he mimes along all the physical movements.
Cheryl might have been the first girl. Two girls.
Oh, you're right.
The first woman reading it had to pass the script on because she was laughing too hard at reading his jokes.
Which is the best reason to have to tap out of a bit.
It's just like, I'm sorry, in written form, your jokes are too funny for me.
But also, they both had it. Both of them delivered them pretty well, especially for people who aren't comedians. They did a good job.
Oh, yeah.
But it was so funny, and definitely check it out. There's some asides in it that are great, and it just really illustrates how good of a writer he is, that someone else can deliver his jokes and they still kill.
Yeah. And just what a performer he is, and also how much time and thought he puts into his behavior on stage because he was walking around like he knew the timing of his set, but someone else was reading it. It was almost seamless. It was really cool.
Yeah, it's really, really impressive.
Yeah. And then, so also in 2016, something that he produced was 50 First Jokes, which is 50 First Joke. Sorry. That's a clue into what it is.
Yeah.
That's an album. It's a mini album released by Martin on Bandcamp, and it's super funny, and you should listen to it. 51st Joke. It's like a minute. It's really good. Totally worth it. We obviously can't say what the joke is.
No.
Or jokes.
No.
It's 51st.
Yes.
What could it be? What could it be?
But I would highly suggest listening to the album commentary track because it really delves into the thought process behind the album, and I think it's really insightful. And then in 2017, he appeared on Jimmy Kimmel Live and did a stand-up set that is amazing. It killed.
Yeah, definitely. He talks about it in the podcast as something that he's really proud of.
And with good reason. He also
oh my God, it's amazing.
He also brought it up on Indie, was it 617?
Yeah.
He brought it up there too as one of the things that really helped elevate him up to the next level by giving him, the exposure and then just putting him in front of people.
Oh yeah.
It's great. It's a lot of his stuff that seems to be part of some of his current stand-up.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of puns that he weaves together into this awesome narrative. He talks about his ethnicity.
Oh yeah, that
a lot
great.
In a really hilarious, subversive way. He's like, oh yeah, I'm Mexican. He is Latino. But then he makes you question that in 20 different ways. And I'm just like, oh, my little white guilt heart. It's so twisted in a way that is so wonderful. I can only speak of experiencing that joke from this body, and it's wonderful. I loved it. Yeah, no, I did shout, "Oh my God, that was so great!" at the end.
Yeah, you did. It was amazing. It was amazing. It was just an amazing set. It was one of the first things I saw of his as part of the research for this.
Mm-hmm.
And so as soon as I saw it, it was just like, oh, no, you know what? He can take us to comedy school.
Oh, yeah.
He can teach us quite a bit.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to see what he teaches us, too. Because of the specific way that he does comedy, it might be all just a joke. But I think that those jokes will be amazing. And we might learn something. Who knows? Yeah, so then we got, he was on an album, Samantha Ruddy Presents the Comedy Holiday album in 2017, and she apparently does these. Samantha Ruddy is a comedian in Texas, probably. Well, she's really great. We definitely read a thing about her where they said that, she's
in New York.
She's in New York. We read something talking about how people were like, yeah, she's an up-and-comer, keep that name in mind. So remember Samantha Ruddy, but she produces these comedy albums of her friends. He had a really great Feliz Navidad singing joke where he makes fun of, the words that we know to Feliz Navidad.
But also, Patton didn't just say she's someone to watch.
Oh.
Patton said the entire lineup
of
people to watch. He said that he hates to be that guy, but this is one of those shows full of people who will become huge. And you'll get to one-up your friends in 5 years about how you went to this for free.
Damn.
And it's a great lineup. He's not wrong.
Yeah, and all the proceeds from the album went to the ACLU. Can you still buy the album and send all of those to the ACLU? Does that still happen?
I believe so. I saw the Spotify link on Samantha Ruddy's site. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, but I would guess you can probably get it on Bandcamp or something. Yeah. Still.
Do either that or pay her somehow. I don't know. Throw her some dollars.
Right.
Throw some to the ACLU. They need it.
And then Martin has also been on the special without Brett Davis, which
in 2018.
In 2018, which as everyone knows is the show that took over the Chris Gethard Showtime slot and had it before CGP. He appeared on the episode New Characters 2018 as Pablo Chalupa, where he gets held up at knife point, and then it just gets great.
Yeah, he's wearing a lot of America-themed clothing. Definitely look up the clip. He basically is just removing layer upon layer upon layer of America-themed clothing, and you're waiting to see what happens.
And you'll have to see what happens by watching the clip.
You'll have to see what happens. And then he was on Ringo's Wrangle, where Brett Davis... I didn't know this. We haven't watched much of the special without Brett Davis, just because I don't know why. But he is a different character. Brett Davis plays a different person every show.
Because Brett got murdered on the first episode.
Of course.
Yeah.
So that's really fun. So he was Ringo.
He's Kelsey Grammer on New Characters 2018, and then his Ringo Starr on Ringo's Wrangle.
Yeah. Martin plays an animal expert named Crocodile Hunter. Crocodile Hunter. Yeah, from the Central Park Zoo.
He's so funny at it. He got into animal training because he found animals sexy. And some of the animals he brings out are a bear and a dolphin played by Kelsey Kane.
Yep. Yeah. Pretty great.
It's wonderful. You definitely check it out. We'll include the link both to a clip of them individually on the show and then a clip to the whole episode so you can check it out. It's really funny.
Yeah. And then I think this is one of my favorite ones that we saw just because I don't know. It was just very different, very specific to the format.
It's so perfect.
Yeah, it's a YouTube couple breakup vlog. It's titled YouTube couple breakup vlog, ! Bracket real, end bracket. I have never seen YouTube people like of the style that they're parodying. But I absolutely got who they were parodying within a second. Like, it's not specific people, it's a style.
Yeah, and it's the generic YouTuber sort of persona and style guide.
So it's Martin and Kelsey, and they are in a bedroom that has on each side of the mantle the same picture of the two of them in a frame. And like their cute little like Austin like heart Texas.
And he has sunglasses on his head and in like the collar of his shirt at the same time.
Yeah. They just, they're talking about how they're breaking up and there's like all of the fun like half edits, lots of jump cuts.
And they keep like sprinkling in platitudes and self-promotion and like both.
I just feel so stupid. I just feel so stupid. She feels so stupid.
It's so good.
It's really great, and it's so specific to the YouTube style.
And that's actually where the end of our intro was from.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then in 2019, he was featured by Comedy Central in a YouTube video that they call Martin Urbano's Jokes Are Offensive, but he's still a good guy, where he has a hat on that says, I'm a really good guy. And then he proceeds to tell jokes that make you question, but is he? Is he though?
It's great. He moves the hat to where he can like sense spots in the audience that people are like clenching up.
I kind of feel like that should be standard issue now to a lot of comedians, right? Especially here.
Right? The only problem is like baseball caps with things written on them.
Well,
not in vogue anymore.
That's true. They have been, but they weren't in vogue when he made the video either.
No, but like it's central to his.
No,
style
I'm joking. I'm
joking.
It's a wonderful, like he's wonderful in this video. It's really good.
Yeah. Yeah, and then of course CGP, where he makes a bunch of pedophile jokes.
So many pedophile jokes.
I loved that episode. They really got into talking about, because they were talking with Lorelai Ramirez.
Yes.
Who was on the last episode. They played Preston, the little boy, and Kelsey also,
yes.
Of course. Kelsey Kane?
Yes, Kelsey Kane.
I can't remember anything. Kelsey Kane. And they talked about how they all have really, really subversive comedy and how they like to play with implications and how they walk that line without being offensive and without being an asshole, without like triggering people, honestly. I am a person who gets triggered by sexual assault, images and talk and other things, when I'm not expecting it, especially. And so they talk about how they use that feedback and use their own experiences to make those kinds of jokes without causing that kind of discomfort, which is not the kind of discomfort that leads to comedy. That's just like assholery. And it's so, so interesting because they walk that line so well. Like I don't ever I have never felt triggered by anything that they have said. I have only laughed heartily and felt seen.
Yeah, no, it was really interesting hearing comedians who do, like, I guess I'm repeating what you said, but it was especially interesting because you so often hear it not from a perspective of we do have a responsibility to do that for the audience, as it's generally framed as an oppositional thing of like, well, the audience just didn't get it. So hearing them talk about it in what I would say is a more mature way was very interesting.
And a way that's thoughtful towards the audience, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
What was interesting is he talked about doing college shows and about how he can't do and I'm a sex offender opening at college shows because the college kids like don't respond to it the way that other audiences do. And he totally kills when he doesn't use that opener, which is interesting because, of course, we've heard other comedians say that about college shows and like these whiny kids, and we're all like, ooh, like get better jokes, man, which is absolutely true in a lot of cases.
Right.
Like these people just don't have good jokes. Like, but that was super interesting because I've never heard that from someone whose comedy I really respond to.
Yeah, I haven't either, and I haven't. I mean, it sort of returns to what I said earlier, but I haven't heard a comedian talk about it from the perspective of, and I totally get it.
I wonder how he'd do in San Francisco. San Francisco can have some interesting audiences. Like, there are a lot of times when, like, I'm dying over a, walking, towing the line joke, and everyone else feels really, really uncomfortable.
I think it really depends on the room.
Yeah.
I think that, were the Cynic Cave's still around, he could kill in there.
Yeah, that was a comedy.
Yeah, that was an alt comedy venue in the basement of a video store.
In San Francisco, like 4 years ago.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Where like a lot of comedians who do it was a great space.
People.
A lot of cool
Most
people.
of them moved to LA.
Pretty much all of them.
Writing for TV shows and like not entertaining us anymore, and instead making a bunch of money as they deserve to. I hope so.
I mean, they're definitely getting the exposure they deserve. Yeah. But yeah, and so I don't know. Like, I think that there's definitely like some of the more comedy focused rooms he could still kill in, because I think they're still more tolerant of jokes walking that edge. Mm-hmm. But I think there's definitely like some of the theaters and stuff is where you get a lot of the hesitancy to laugh at a lot of those kinds of jokes.
Yeah, you're further away from the comedian. You feel more like you're watching a show rather than you're involved in an experience.
Yeah.
It's harder to feel like you're friends with the person. I feel like it works so well when they make you feel like you're just chatting. I think that he could still kill because he's like, Martin thinks so much about his sets and he's so practiced. Like, yeah, I think that he could win over any audience. That was poor
phrasing on my part. I should have said I think that the joke could kill in those rooms. I think he'd figure it out either way, but I think that joke would do better in some of the alt and more comedy focused rooms than like a theater, because that's a space that's not necessarily, I don't know, like people,
it's not the kind of space that one would equate to, say, the M&N studio.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not the space for anarchic, crazy, pure comedy.
Yeah. So yeah, those are all the things we were able to see of him. He doesn't have as many things on YouTube or on the internet that we were able to have access to, because I think he's just like, he's a writer and a stand-up, not as many videos of him doing things. But it was really cool that we got to learn so much more about his history. I thought that really was so interesting. I am so, so excited for the show this Wednesday, July 17th. Right?
Yes, July 17th. It's July 17th. I shouldn't have made that face. You were right.
July 17th at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Right?
One of the Pacific times. Whichever one we're on.
The one in San Francisco, 8 p.m.
Well, I meant standard versus daylight, but yeah.
Sure. Well, I am so excited. Forrest, what do you expect for Comedy School with Martin Urbano? What do you predict will happen?
That's a good question.
Right?
I could see him leaning into shtick and being like Borscht Belt, like, take my wife. No, take her, please. Like, as a character.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that would be my guess, is leaning into like Rubber Chicken Hack.
And then teaching us about that, but then subverting it as he's teaching.
Yeah, like maybe having some dark narrative come up around the character.
Ooh.
Or something. Just because like he does a lot of setting up very traditional comedy expectation and then swerving and taking the joke in a very different direction. Mm-hmm. And so playing with a hack sort of Borscht Belt character, I think, could totally be up his alley.
Yeah, I think so.
Admittedly, I've had a very little hit rate so far on these guesses, so who knows?
I think it's going to be penises.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I think it's going to be just full frontal nudity again. I'm not sure that it will be his penis. I'm not sure about that, but I do think that there will be full frontal male nudity. I think that there will be close-ups on male genitalia.
I keep forgetting that your prediction is always dicks, so I keep being like, I wonder what Emily will say. All right, nope, dicks. That's what she says. That's what it is. It's dicks.
I'm absolutely serious.
It's dicks all the way down.
It's dicks all the way down.
I know.
No, I'm absolutely serious.
No, I know you
I
are.
really think he's going to do dicks. He's a subversive comic, you know? He's been playing with that. He's played with physical comedy before, having other people like read his thing and
That's
moving
true.
around. And this is a really cool venue where we've seen people lean into the show-like format of CGP. We saw the whole set with Christy, Carmen Christopher, like pretending to be
That's true. You did hear your phone go off.
a night show. So everyone knows that I have a text. I'm really cool, and I have friends who want to talk to me. And that's why you should believe my prediction that Martin Urbano is going to show us male genitalia or, you know, penises.
I think it was your friends texting you being like, I think it is going to be penises. I think you're right.
There might be some non-gender specific penises as well, but it will be penises.
Yes.
Yes. The humans who have them, God knows.
The human fish will really love this episode.
Yeah, well, we're not going to even see the humans it's attached to. It's just going to be penises.
Right, but the human
live
fish,
penises too.
You know,
he
loves
does love cock.
So
he does love
he'll
cock.
be very excited.
He will be. Yeah. Wow. I think this is our shortest episode so far.
Can I add one more thing before we go out?
Yes.
The next Latino in the Tramp show is on Wednesday, August 7th. It's a bi-weekly show, so go check it out. I think they may actually be skipping a week to do CGP. So go on August 7th. Check it out. Link will be in the show notes. I would go if I lived in New York.
Oh my God, right? Yeah, all you New York mofos, take advantage of this shit, because...
You still live in a legendary comedy city. We live in one that once was.
Okay, you know, well, there are a lot of good comics in San Francisco.
Can we edit that out, actually? I don't want to have that in there.
No, I'm leaving that in.
I meant that the city doesn't support the comedians like it used to. Not that there's not great talent here.
No, that's entirely true.
There's definitely the talent is still as good as it's ever been.
Yeah, like one of the legendary clubs, the Punchline.
That is, I was specifically thinking about the closing of the Punchline.
Yeah.
I'm not like maligning the comedians here. There's still a lot of great comedy here.
It's just a lot of clubs have been closing and stuff. But
And a lot of the alt venues are smaller and not as regular. It's not like you don't have like as many alt venues that are comedy exclusive every single night. That's what I meant. It's the infrastructure, not the talent.
Yeah. So now that
Am I out of this hole now?
Yeah, you're out of the hole. You're out of the hole. You made yourself a little staircase with your shovel, and you walked right out.
I seriously didn't mean to malign the great comedians of San Francisco.
You absolutely did. We know that you hate every comedian you've seen in San Francisco. You only like New York comedians like Chris Gethard. And I'm expecting to see full frontal nudity. Male nudity. I'm sorry, penises.
Full
Penis
frontal schlong.
Nudity. Schlong. All right, so I think that we're actually coming in on our like mini cast.
It's actually a mini cast this week?
Kind of. I mean, we're still under 40 minutes, so.
Wow.
See y'all in the chat and have a great week. We're so excited to see Martin Urbano.
We're going to turn you from a comedy 0 into a comedy 1.